In just a few minutes, City Manager Mark McDaniel will kick off Kerrville 2050, a comprehensive plan outlining this community's vision for the next 30 years. And we all plan to be here, right, Graham? From planning and zoning issues to water policies to quality of life projects, this plan will include extensive community involvement and will attempt to establish long-range objectives as we head towards the mid-century mark. A 30-year time span might seem like an eternity to some of us, but all it takes is a quick look back 30 years to realize just how fast time flies. In 1987, Ronald Reagan was president. TV's MacGyver was showing us how to get out of virtually every jam. And Johnny Carson talked his audience to sleep each night on The Tonight Show. On a local level, Kerrville saw snow in January of 1987, and films like Beverly Hills Cop 2 and Raising Arizona were playing both at the Plaza and the Arcadia theaters. July saw the worst flooding in the area since 1932, and construction neared completion on a 3.5-story downtown parking garage across from what was then the St. Peterson Memorial Hospital. On the sports side of events, the Tivy Antlers advanced to the state semifinals, making an appearance at the Astrodome in Houston. Some of you may remember all of these events. But let's flash forward to today. The hospital has now been moved across the river and is an award-winning, state-of-the-art regional medical center complex, isn't it, Mr. Murray? In its place stands the new City Hall building and the beautiful Peterson Plaza. The downtown area has become home, hasn't it, Linda, to a number of new retail businesses, restaurants, art galleries, and gift stores. And while the Point Theater is still producing outstanding shows every year, the opening of the Kathleen C. Kello Center for the Performing Arts in 2003 both expanded and enhanced Kerrville's reputation as a destination for top-notch theatrical and musical performances. The center's grand opening in March of that year concluded an ambitious 4-year project to turn the 1950s-era municipal auditorium into a first-class performing arts center, drawing tourists from around the state. We also have an excellent public school system that consistently earns the highest state accountability ratings from the Texas Education Agency. And Kerrville is also home to a nationally recognized institute of higher learning, its 94-year-old Schreiner University, which offers undergraduate, Master of Education, and Master of Business Administration degrees. Since 2001, Schreiner has undergone major renovations, some of which have been aided by city EIC funding, and has added new facilities for academics, sports, fitness, student housing, nearly doubling its enrollment. I saw representatives from Schreiner University. Would you wave your hands here today? Thank you. There you are. Dr. McCormick, thank you. Quality of life options continue to improve as well. Cultural additions in the last 30 years. And when you've had your 40th class reunion, that just doesn't seem like that long ago. Include the Museum of Western Art, and Stephanie is here today with the Museum of Western Art, the Kerr Arts and Cultural Center, the Riverside Nature Center, as well as major improvements to the 50-year-old but Holsworth Memorial Library System, the jointly owned Kerrville Kerr County Airport, and the Scott Schreiner Municipal Golf Course. Kerrville now boasts 20 parks within the city limits, the most widely appreciated being the 64-acre Louise Hayes Park, which has undergone extensive renovations and improvements in the past few years as well, including a very popular water spray park and a 4.6-mile river trail for about $9 million investment from EIC. Kerrville's Louise Hayes Park has now become a destination place for tourists who attend the city's July the 4th celebration, which along with other popular events such as the Kerrville Triathlon Festival, which I help kick off at about 7:30 each morning, and the Chalk Festival bring thousands of visitors to the Kerrville area each year. And finally, we're anticipating that next spring, the new $12.5 million Kerrville Sports Complex will open its softball and soccer seasons on 104 acres of land on Holsworth Drive, offering opportunities for regional, statewide, and national tournament play, and hopefully driving the hotel, motel, and retail shopping markets, Charlie, to greater opportunities for financial growth. On the business side, with the chamber growing to almost 1,000 in membership, we are seeing a very active and growing business community with sales tax revenue hitting record highs. Kerrville's economy today is blessed with a wide variety of industries ranging from healthcare, education, and tourism to financial, hospitality, and retirement services. And with the completion of the new James Avery facility and the increase in Mooney aircraft production and sales, Kerrville's unemployment remains lower than the statewide average. I would also like to commend Mayor Jack Pratt for introducing council to the concept of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, which I engaged for the first time last year, and what a year it was. By the way, Roman Garcia, who gave our invocation, is chairman of that committee, with an emphasis on transitioning our leaders of tomorrow from high school to young adulthood. My goal was to introduce them to not only how government works, but where and why tax dollars are spent, and how they, as young adults, can contribute to the world in which they live. The new Mayor's Youth Council members are off to a fast and furious second year with the help of Stuart Cunhas, Stuart, against the wall over there, our public information officer, and 15 very involved and enthused young members who, by the way, will be participating with us in the comprehensive plan process. And last but not least, it was not until I entered public office that I realized the extent to which this city is blessed by so many who are willing to dedicatedly and unselfishly serve others. From concerned healthcare providers to engaged civic leaders, from volunteer coaches and mentors to auxiliary groups that support both young and old, rich and poor, healthy or disabled, Kerrville excels in its spirit of benevolence and charity. From St. Vincent de Paul to Habitat for Humanity, the Salvation Army, United Way, Red Cross, Leader Center, to a number of generous charitable foundations, as well as many individual, selfless citizens, Kerrville should be recognized and commended as being a very caring and generous community. 30 years ago, Kerrville was home by one report to about 15,000 citizens. Today, that number has grown to more than 23,000. With our population expected to continue to increase, we must continue to explore ways to balance growth while maintaining the hometown feel that so many come here to enjoy. The Comprehensive Plan Committee has already identified a number of challenges that Kerrville must address in the coming years, including housing, water quality and supply, land use, and infrastructure to support continued business and residential expansion. Kerrville has come a long way from Joe Herring's depictions of a tranquil riverside community of shingle makers and square dancers, but the beauty and the warmth of that original hillside community lures homemakers and visitors to her boundaries still today. As in all growing communities, we will have new faces, new challenges, new opportunities, new ideas which will blend with and build upon the efforts and dreams of those who spend a lifetime investing in this beautiful city that they call home. But now I would like to introduce you to the real keynote speaker, our city manager for the City of Kerrville, who will speak to us in a little more detail about his vision of how we will move forward in the months and the years to come. Let me say that I am confident under his leadership, with his 30-plus years of experience in public service, economic development, finance, infrastructure improvements, and revitalization, coupled with his active participation in civic and other organizations, Mr. McDaniel brings a vitality and a vision for this community that should serve us well going forward. Its standards for quality of work and team building, I believe, will result in greater productivity and pride and accomplishment for city employees, as well as increased benefit to the city as a whole. And besides all this, he has a great sense of humor and a healthy appetite. I don't know where that fits, but it should make his mother happy. And so with that, I proudly present to you for a great more detail, Mark McDaniel.
Wow. Have I said lately how happy I am to be here? What a great community, and I'm so blessed to be here. As you can see from the map on the screen, the community represents all parts of Kerrville and even Kerr County. Over the next few months, don't hesitate to share your thoughts and ideas about Kerrville's future with this group, as they will be recommending a final draft of plan concepts and an implementation plan to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council next summer. And now to formally launch this historic planning effort with a brief video presentation. So Kerrville 2050, that's our plan. Now let me share you what we have been up to and where we're going with the process to build Kerrville 2050. First of all, what is it? Well, simply put, it's the community's vision for Kerrville's future. And candidly, I want to tell you that I've asked our consultant team to leave no stone unturned and nothing off the table in terms of ideas and topics of discussion. This means that we'll tackle some tough subjects, and there will be certainly debate and strong debate about a variety of subjects. But that's okay. That's our democracy at work. This is the time that we should be having these discussions in full disclosure and in an environment where the entire community gets to weigh in. This next map depicts our planning areas. First of all, the current city limits, as you can see with the yellow line, the current extraterritorial jurisdiction with the green line, and then the extraterritorial jurisdiction will hit a population of 25,000, which is just right around the corner in the pink line. These will be the geographic planning areas for Kerrville 2050, with more intensive planning inside of our city limits, and then planning in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, commonly known as ETJ, will be more conceptual in nature. So why do this? Why develop a new comprehensive plan? First, in order to adopt zoning regulations, we need a comprehensive plan to serve as a guide for future zoning decisions. Secondly, the current plan is nearly 10 years old, and a lot has changed and occurred during that time, as many of you know. And perhaps most importantly, it is about our future. Over the last 30 years, we've grown by 59%. At this same rate of growth, we'll have a population of over 38,000 by 2050. You see, this is not a question of if we will grow, but how we will grow. How do we as a community ensure that it's the type of growth that preserves and enhances our unique character, natural beauty, infrastructure, and quality of life? Please pay attention to this next slide, as you'll see it change colors as the city grows. The city's boundaries at the end of the 1980s are represented in yellow. Now you can see in brown how we've added some tracks in Comanche Trace and elsewhere in the 1990s. The first decade beyond 2000 saw additional growth as seen in red, with more parcels in Comanche Trace, the addition of Kerrville Schreiner Park, and the annexation of the Heights to the northeast. You'll also note additional growth in the vicinity of the airport to the south. In the current decade, in blue, you can see more of Comanche Trace being added and even areas due north. And now I ask, if 2050 is just over 30 years out, what will this map look like then? So that we can put ourselves as a community in the driver's seat on that question, we will put the plan to use in several ways. This plan will be used to establish or coordinate and guide the establishment of development regulations, to provide a basis for future zoning decisions, to help guide public infrastructure and facility investments, and to serve as a policy document that includes extensive implementation. That last part about implementation is enormously important. Essentially, that is what will bring Kerrville 2050 to life for many years. Kerrville 2050 will initially include 8 components or chapters, as you see here, with citizen subcommittees appointed to each, and charged with developing principles, goals, and action plans. And on November 14th, the City Council will be appointing those subcommittees. Other components will be added if they percolate to the top as we move through our public outreach process. While we have been underway developing capacity and baseline information to launch Kerrville 2050 for several months now, this slide outlines our process going forward. As you can see, it's a major undertaking that culminates with the adoption of a plan next summer. Conceptually, the process for developing Kerrville 2050 will include 3 distinct elements. It will certainly deal with physical opportunities like land use and transportation and parks, which you most often see in a traditional comprehensive plan. But this will not be a traditional comprehensive plan. We will also include unprecedented public engagement to develop consensus around community aspirations. And lastly, to make sure that the plan is grounded in reality, we will assess and leverage our market potential. All 3 elements then come together to create a community vision. As I mentioned, market potential will ensure that the plan is designed and grounded in market and economic reality. This is why we have included a land use economist on our team of consultants. This will not only provide an independent assessment for developers and investors who will help make the plan a reality, but it will set the stage for active implementation. We're using a top-down and a bottom-up approach in conducting a market feasibility analysis. Top-down refers to determining demographic and psychographic profiles, as well as the demand for certain land uses. It will also include identification of untapped market niches. The bottom-up approach will consider the capacity and condition of specific development sites, vision and desire from a policy and development perspective, and existing regulations along with financial feasibility. And now some preliminary findings regarding Kerrville's demographics and psychographics. I think we all know what demographics are. They're characteristics of our population. Psychographics are different. They put a face on those demographics, using purchasing habits of individuals to get at attitudes, interests, opinions, and lifestyles. So who are we today demographically? We're growing incrementally, slower than the state. Household sizes are smaller, with a higher share of non-family, one-family, and two-family households. And we have a higher share of renter households. I'm certain that it's no surprise to all of you that our age profile skews towards 65 and older, includes fewer school-age children, and is significantly higher than the state overall. What might be a surprise, as it was to the steering committee, is that Kerrville's fastest growing age group is from 25 to 44 years of age. While we have lower than average household incomes, this is misleading because it does not include retirees who have resources but are no longer salaried. Finally, we have lower degrees of ethnic diversity than the state overall. Again, psychographics put a face on demographics. Tapestry, the firm that we're using, is a national leader in systems for characterizing neighborhoods and workforces into 67 different market segments. This data is commonly used by commercial retail developers and residential developers to understand propensity to spend for different retail items and preferences for certain housing products, respectively. Kerrville's psychographics profile is dominated by affluent empty nesters and retirees, which indicate higher disposable incomes and purchasing power. However, we have an emerging segment of our population that includes more middle incomers and ethnically diverse households that bring new opportunities for Kerrville. Part of our community aspiration element for developing Kerrville 2050 has been extensive stakeholder interviews. To date, we've had 20 separate interview sessions that include over 90 people. Another round is scheduled in first week in December. So let's take a look at what we are hearing. 3 strong themes have been consistent throughout the interviews we conducted. First, a need to focus on a long-term vision that everyone can support. Secondly, development of an economic development strategy that's appropriate for Kerrville, and the need to focus on quality of life assets as part of economic development efforts. Several additional themes were heard as well, just not from every group that was interviewed. Of course, the Guadalupe River and its amenities is seen as a huge asset that is perhaps not fully utilized. Next, several stakeholders expressed a concern over the lack of housing, particularly for workforce. Another common theme was the need to expand upon tourism efforts. And as the heart of the city, downtown was seen as a great opportunity to attract even more residents, businesses, and visitors. Last, we heard a full range of comments about things like the need to foster a middle income or a middle class and clean up unsightly commercial corridors. So, what do you think? It's time for you to weigh in. This will not be your only opportunity, but we hope you'll take the time to fill out the survey that's at each of your places. And inside the cover are many of the themes I just covered. We'd like you to share what you might think are your 5 most important themes. And so after you fill it out, you can leave it with a city staff member as you exit the doors at the end of the event. To wrap up, I'd like to let you know about more opportunities for you to get involved and stay informed. All meetings throughout this process of developing Kerrville 2050 are open to the public and the media. Our next event will be the Community Vision Retreat on November 18th, and more about that in a moment. After subcommittees are appointed later this month, we will begin holding meetings for these 8+ groups as well. The consultants will be back in town the first week of December for the next steering committee meeting and a final round of stakeholder interviews. Once we have some scenarios and draft components developed based upon public input and steering committee input, we will hold open houses in February of 2018 for the community once again weigh in before taking up that input back to the steering committee. To keep everyone up to date and involved, we've launched a website and social media for Kerrville 2050 during today's event. Tomorrow and next week, we'll be sending out project newsletters through our local papers, email, and social media. And there'll be 4 newsletters in all distributed now through next spring with the following issues coming out in January. We hope you can join us for the Community Vision Retreat on Saturday, November 18th from 9:30 a.m. till 2:30 p.m. I know it's a long time out on a Saturday, but even if you can't stay for the whole thing, come for part of it. The event will be held at Tucker Hall, and lunch and refreshments will be provided. You can RSVP at our project website at kerrville2050.com. And the entire community is involved to participate in exercises and provide input to growth scenarios. Make it a family exercise, encourage students to attend, and invite your neighbors to come along with you. We promise to make it fun, and what can be more important than getting a chance to help shape your future? In closing, Kerrville 2050 is a key that opens up our future, building on the past, but looking forward to even greater possibilities. But it starts with you. Recognize the power of your voice to create a positive ripple effect. We all have a choice to be an agent of change or simply react to what's happening around us. Will you choose to be an active voice, to be a bridge builder in service to the whole community? It's time for us to come together for our city, using our voice for our future. Thank you for attending today's event, and I look forward to many more discussions with you about Kerrville's future over the next several months. With that, Walt, it's back to you.